Good evening, everyone. I'm here.
Well, I guess a little.
All right, just I don't know what happened to our. Here we are,
Triggers
guys,
aren't working now. Now the triggers aren't working.
out the window. I'm here. You're not. Mike's here. You're not. Lily's here, and you're not. But we're all here together, and it's only going to get better from this point on.
There we go.
Watching High in the Highlands, and as you can tell from my voice, I'm not going to be speaking very high. In fact, I think for this show, I'll adopt my NPR voice and we'll talk to Mike as if him and I were really people, and like we really only the best people in the world want to become our disciples. I meant fans, excuse me. So without further ado, I bring you the host of Dooner's World, Mike Muldoon.
Yo, what's up, everybody? How you doing?
Hey, Mike. How's it going? Thank you so much.
It's a nice, gritty, gray day out there. So I usually say I'm looking at the Atlantic Ocean in the city, but I do not see the city presently. The ocean is still there. For everybody watching, Mike Muldoon is the host and owner of Dooner's World, which is a really cool music show. And as we'll talk about, Mike and I share a passion for Frank Zappa, amongst many other bands. I've come to enjoy his show. He's got good taste in music, and he's kind of on a similar path as we do. And a lot of times people, I've had a couple of persons ask me if I was competing with you, and I said, hell no. I said, I watch your shows as soon as they come up, and I like the guy, and so I'm going to have him on my show because I think it'll be fun to talk about music with. And
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add too, like something that people don't realize about the podcasting world is that we all collaborate with one another, because that's the key to success for all of us, is if we work together and share all of our stuff and work as a team and a collective. Oh my God, I don't mean to go totally start a next generation on you and the Borg, assimilate, but nothing like that.
When I do my NPR rant, I'm going to wear a Che Guevara T-shirt just so I can trendy and hip.
For me, when I find shows that I like your show, and there's a few others, I watch for two things. Hey, what's he doing that's working that I could do, right? Like what's and then also who's his guest? Oh my God, I want to get that person on, right? I guest deal, not guest deal, but wow, that if you find someone that's out there doing shows, that might do yours, so it's
right.
It's,
And I like what you're doing. It's just that simple, There's a lot of room in the world. No, I don't think we're stealing anything from anybody. I think people who support your show or my show would support a lot of other good shows. And we can kind of get, unfortunately, the tech stuff has got us into kind of a weird state of how to run a business, anticipating future events, like being tied to one platform. I don't want to bore everybody out there to death with all the statistics and stuff that we have to pay attention to. I think most people just figure, and I don't know, I'm going to only speak for myself, but when I started this, I basically was just sitting around bored to death, going out of my mind, COVID news everywhere. And it was just making me crazy. And I play and I'm a musician, but I just needed to do something different, And so here we are. I started with an iPad and an iPhone, and while I had some good content, Crystal Zevon was on, and I had to do it with an iPhone and an Apple. And Crystal, I love you for putting up with me in my earliest incarnation or iteration of the show. I was awful. The interview was good because she was good. So tell me about. Let's just go to you. How did you start? Oh, what did you say, Jules?
I wanted to go back to the part where you mentioned some of Mike's guests, and Mike was telling me backstage before some of the cool guests he had, and I didn't want to disrupt your flow, but that was.
Oh no, that's okay.
We'll get there. Yes,
definitely.
So similar to you, right? Back in March, right? We watched this COVID go from China to Italy, right? And then it was coming to New York, right? So I was working 70 hours a week, and then all of a sudden that stopped, right? Completely stopped. And then, I was doing a lot of yoga and meditation at the time. And then really out of that, I was just guided to like, you gotta find your voice, right? You got to find it out there somewhere. So my first two shows, you talked about your iPad and your iPhone. I just had my iMac. I had no audio equipment or anything. I just used the camera on my iMac. I went live. It was like a 15-minute show. I grabbed my guitar. I played What I Got by Sublime, the first show. And the second show, I played I Don't Want to Grow Up by Tom Waits, right? It was just to get my voice out there. And then the fifth show, I got Ike Willis on, right? So that's where it comes into. I roadied for Project Object with Andre, right? I saw Andre back in 1995 with Ike up in New Paltz. And then a few years later, I roadied for Napoleon Murphy Brock, Ike Willis, Bunk Gardner, and Don Preston. Andre had put a note out. Anybody that wants to roadie, email me. And so me and my buddy stood there in New York City. Andre called like 5 minutes before they arrived. Me and my friends held the spot, right? We're fighting cars off. And then a van pulled up and out rolled, a couple Mothers of Invention and Ike Willis, right? So I was, and that was, and I roadied a few other times with them. So I had a relationship. So when I reached out for Ike, he came on. And then after that, I had Andre on, Ed Palermo, and it just kept rolling. It kept rolling from there. I met a couple of publicists, right, who liked me, right? So they got me. He got Steve Hackett, and then I started, looking at other shows. Who's coming on podcasts, right? Who's doing shows? And I saw Liberty DeVito. I was like, ooh, Liberty DeVito. I love Billy Joel, right? He just put a book out. So I saw him. He was fun as hell on the show. I looked up his publicist, reached out, and they said, yeah, he'll come on. So
I saw that show. I enjoyed it very much. Great show. I love Liberty too. I've met him a time or two at drum clinics, and just a great New York guy. And just I love him. He's killer.
Well, and I love finding these old New York rockers because I love to talk about David Peel, right? Because I own a little bit of David Peel history, right? My friend put out a record by David Peel, and part of the release they did a limited 7-inch, which it was John Lennon and David Peel. Right. So I have like most of the release here. So whenever I ever had these old rockers on who we just love the Beatles, I get to tell them this cool story. And that my friend put this record out. And it was funny. My buddy, when he was doing this with David Peel, he was in David Peel's apartment in the Village. And it used to be Bob Dylan's apartment. Right. So my friend Jim's sitting on this red couch and David Peel walks over and hands him a picture. And it's a picture of John Lennon and Bob Dylan on the couch he was sitting on. He was like, what the fuck? Yeah. It's like getting to Liberty that and giving him a record. Like same with Prescott Nile from the Knack, right? He's another Brooklyn guy who's just, he has crazy Jimi Hendrix stories as well. But just try to share what, I found that, I've had some little unique pieces of history and moments, meeting Tom Waits, meeting Trey, meeting Lou Reed, all these points in my life that are like fun to talk about, it's
absolutely.
And the more you talk to people, you find stories that, if they tell will illuminate people and that they love. And, everyone's got a cool story out there,
Absolutely, and you do a great job of drawing out people. I'm not here to have. I was thinking about starting my own Mike Muldoon psycho fan club.
Oh no!
You'll have people lurking around, strange people. And but I'm totally kidding. I like what you do. How you talk to people is great. And
I try to make it unique. I'm a musician. I'm a musician and a musicologist, right? I mean, amateur musician. I did play lead guitar in a Zappa cover band 20 years ago. We were hacks, but I learned 60 Zappa tunes. So I can hold my own in a conversation with Steve Hackett, right? Talking about John McLaughlin and Al Di Meola, and like that's so fucking cool for me, Oh, isn't it good? Steve Hackett told me he saw Jimi Hendrix 3 times, and the first time Peter Gabriel was in the audience too. Like I just love that. Like that's just that's history, right? That's like energy transference that just changed things.
Exactly.
I love it. I just love it.
Yes.
I think that's cool. So, who is your favorite guest so far? Just overall, I mean, I can tell you we have favorites, but just like who? Let me rephrase it.
We love all of our friends together.
We do. But who is someone that you met and you perceived as one way, but that was the most different than your initial perception because of notoriety or any of those things? Like who you went, wow, I did not expect that. Is there anybody that kind of blew your mind at all?
Most people have been really cool. I think, Chris France from the Talking Heads was just unbelievably cool.
Right.
And that conversation, being able to go from Andy Warhol to, Lou Reed coming out and playing Sweet Jane with them and CDs, it was just amazing. But, the show, my most watched show, and probably my deepest one was the Dale Bozio show.
Okay.
Dale, I mean, her story, first off, if you haven't seen that, you got to go watch it, right? So,
I've watched it. It's excellent.
So, Jules, quick summary. She was moving from Boston to Hugh Hefner's house, right? She was going to be the Playmate of the Year, right? So she drove her Corvette or whatever it was, 21 years old, with her other hot friends, right? She was like devastatingly beautiful. So they drive out there. She goes to Hugh's house, 10 in the morning is a meeting, walks in, and Hugh's at the top of the stairs, and he waves into his bedroom. And she's at the bottom of the stairs. And she's like, excuse me? And, Mr. Hefner, could you come down and talk to me? I'm coming out here. She thought she was going to live in the house and like have a career. Waves again. So she tells him to go fuck himself, gets in her car, drives into the city, knows where the Zappa studio was. There's a sign on the door. It says, enter, if you enter here, we'll kill you, or enter, whatever. So she pushes the door open and there's Zappa jamming. And he had met her back in Boston once. So he's like, what are you doing here? Long story short, she met her husband that day. She became Mary from Joe's Garage that day, and she became a Zappa disciple, right? So when she toured with them, and eventually she did Missing Persons, right? Which she told that whole story of Frank sponsoring that. What was really special was just the moments of, she's one of the deepest Zappa disciples I've ever met. Like, she was like, anything Frank said, I would do. He told her to go to the producer's house, climb over his fence, and tell him you're going to record the Missing Persons album. So she did it. And it happened, right? So, and then she brought me to the end, when she met Zappa and Frank at the end, and it just got really deep. We cried, I fell to pieces, but it was just, I felt the closest I did to Frank through that, episode, which was just really cool. That's what it's about for me. That was the essence of, why I'm doing this, right? It's just to get to those moments of, of history, and I never got to meet Frank. I never got to see him, and
oh, you never got to see him in all of your time.
Man.
No,
wow, man. His last tour was '88. I was only 13. Yeah.
Wow, it's interesting because I'm a bit older than you, and I've seen Frank a bunch of times in a lot of different places, and I would just always, whenever he was playing in Florida, anywhere, I would get in the car and go. And I have a good friend of mine, Jay Crocker. You're out there, man. We've had some great times together. Going to see Frank, I remember at the St. Petersburg, it's gone now. There was an arena downtown, the Bayfront Center, long gone. Saw Frank there twice. Saw him once at the Tampa High Life Fronton. On that tour, he had Vinny playing with him.
I love Vinny.
Yeah.
I love
Vinny. I know. Me too. I would. Hell, if I get him on the show, I'll have you come on my show and we'll do the dueling show. We'll double team him hard. And Julia can stand there and flog him, man. We'll have a great time. Come on, Vinny. I know you're getting paid quadruple scale, dude, but come on the show. We'll have some fun. It'll be the best
interviews with him over the last few years too. He's got some great stories.
Absolutely. He's just a monster, and anybody out there drumming, if you don't know who he is, I please ask you, find out. You know him, but you don't know him. You've heard him on all kinds of things. Yep, so it's interesting, all the great drummers, Terry. I had a very interesting story that I'll let it. One time, he and I were sitting at a bar, and we were talking. It's like two Irish guys walk into a bar. They're both drummers. So we're sitting there talking smack. And it was I don't know what it was. It was some kind of a music convention or something up in Orlando. So we find ourselves at the bar, and we're fairly lit by then. And some chicks came up, and we're talking, and they're like, oh, hi. Oh, my God. Terry Bozzio. And so this chick comes over, this hottie comes up to me, and she goes, ooh, she looks at my tag. It's like, there's a climber when they look at your past to see if it's somebody they've heard of. And she's like all about, she would have driven by, but I tell her that I'm Art Blakey, the black jazz drummer. Yeah. So at this point, I have Bozzio turn around and look at me and just start cracking up because it was like really, it's an awkward moment, right? That he was cracking up. And all I will tell you is, a couple of weeks later, this girl and some of her friends tracked us down to a gig somewhere in Florida. The names will be changed to protect the innocent, but at the time, these chicks showed up, and everybody were like, who are these girls? And I'm like, they're here looking for Terry Bozzio. Him and I at the gig told him that he was going to be at my show, and we were going to be hanging and signing autographs. I mean, that seemed as like a good a story as any. And why not? But I think back to that, and I just remember when those girls walked in, I just started cracking up. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We were just talking smack, we had no idea that they'd show up. It was really fun and funny. They stayed around and had a good time, and it's just one of those things. But it's great hearing those stories. Listening to Ike, Ike's full of them. And
yeah.
What is his saying? Ike is the Jap term. I'm just having a mental fart.
What are you looking for?
The fish.
Thingfish?
The thingfish. There we go.
Yeah.
Ike is the thingfish. I always like that. You know what that pertains to.
The first time I met him, I had him sign my Thingfish CD in New York City in 2001. Yeah.
I love it. I won't say anymore because there's more behind the scenes about that whole deal, but we'll let Ike tell it sometime on one of our shows. Anyway,
so how many times have you seen Frank? How many times have you seen him in concert? It sounds like a bunch.
I want to say about 5 overall. I've seen him in a couple of times in Tampa, in St. Pete a couple of times. I haven't ever seen him up in the Northeast. Never saw him in the Northeast.
I think my friend Malcolm was on, and he told a story about the St. Petersburg show. Was that 84?
No, this would have been, well, it might have been, yes.
It was one of those shows. Zappa was playing last minute. He went to the box office, got tickets, front row. Right, so he walks out. He was a bootlegger. Like he liked to tape every show. Right, so he had his little tape recorder, so he's front row, and security guys walking back and forth. And when he's at the other end, Malcolm would get his thing out and fix it, and then the guy would hide it. The guy would walk past. So he thinks he's being slick. End of the show, the security guy comes up, give me the tape, kid. Took the whole thing from him.
Oh man, too bad.
Frank, it's so funny. It's so Frank though.
I love those days.
But it's also like the Doobie Brothers when they were on that show. Remember when Rerun was trying to bootleg it?
Yes, I love it. That is hysterical. When did you first find out about Frank Zappa? How did that whole taste in music develop?
So I was mostly into metal, right? I grew up like Sabbath, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, and then Metallica, Slayer, as I progressed, through Catholic school. Like that's what I was listening to.
Nice Catholic boy.
Get out of Catholic school. It was long hair, jean jacket with a Metallica back patch, and then I got more into punk, right? So I started getting into, Misfits, Dead Kennedys, Minor Threat, right? They're a huge Minor Threat fan, and Ramones and stuff like that. And then I forget when I was really starting to get into progressive jazz, right? As I was, moving from metal into punk, I started getting more into jazz and John Zorn and Naked City and things like that. And then I heard Apostrophe. I think I was probably 14 or 15. And I heard Apostrophe and it just blew me away. And the way I analyze this as I look back is it gave me the feeling of, especially when it gets into like the really crazy runs in St. Alfonso's, the feeling that Carl Stalling gave me when I was a kid watching cartoons. Right, it's just that carefree, crazy roller coaster ride of fun and joy and musical maniacal madness. Right, so that got me, and then I was just like, holy cow, and that led to Mahavishnu and yeah.
Oh man, I had a similar epiphany. It's interesting, in particular, you brought up Apostrophe, which was the first album that I memorized note for note from beginning to top. Scaring my parents in the process. My folks were great. My mom, the best band mom you could imagine. I remember her hauling equipment around. I'm just checking here to see if anybody has any questions for you. Hello to Kim DeFranco, Brian Kuiper, man. We've got a bunch of people here. While we're talking about Frank Zappa, John Spear, we have a groupie request for Julie. Okay, I'll pass it on to her. Didn't you used to date Mike?
Pardon?
Didn't you used to date Mike Imperato?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's something going on in the green room. It just sounded torrid.
He was robbing the cradle. He'd be robbing the cradle.
Yeah. Oh,
I love Mike.
I love Mike too. He's the best. Yeah. I also have my friend Jay Crocker from Tampa. He's refreshing my memory that it was indeed at the Tampa High Life Fronton concert that I was talking about. There was another one. I think Jay may have gone to the other one. Jay, if you're out there, I'm trying to get the time and dates right. But I believe we also saw Frank at the Bayfront. It has to be you. You're like one of my only weird friends who liked Frank Zappa. Let's see.
Great compliment. Yeah.
It is. Jay was great. Everybody's saying hello out there, but if you have any questions for Mike, he's a font of cool information. So going on, I was just saying those Zappa records, like for me, turned a notch in my musical DNA up a bit. I was into all the same stuff you got into, the jazz. I spent like from second year of high school till the first year after high school. And I spent that time playing nothing but jazz. Al Di Meola, Stanley Clarke, Weather Report. I also played rock and roll because I'm a rock and roll guy. I grew up with everything, Led Zeppelin, a lot of the hard rock, later 70s, Ozzy, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But, Frank is I still rip off some Ainsley Dunbar when I start a drum solo, which, I still will do one if somebody like really pokes me with a stick. It's kind of so passe now. I feel like I'm just up there, It's like a little bit of self-indulgence now. It's time for all you guys in the back to go get a beer. That's how I usually look at it.
Ainsley's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite Zappa drummers.
Yeah, when I open up, if somebody asks me to roll, I just tear off the beginning to St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast. There's all these rolls and stuff. Yep. And so I start doing it. Soul, the margarine. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to start busting out Zappa tunes. And it really was great fun. And the fact that like you and I have gotten to talk to some of these people, I feel the same way you do, man. I've talked to Frank or Dweezil. I've never spoken to Frank, but I've spoken to Dweezil a couple times. And actually, I used to work at the Florida Aquarium in Tampa, and when he was out touring with Lisa Loeb, I'm sure Julie remembers this episode. I had Jerry Outlaw of Focus Pump playing with us, which there was a little tension between him and Dweezil, I think, on Dweezil's end. I'm not sure why, but it was something kind of weird, something in the air. And we came out and we had Jerry and we kicked ass and had a great time. Big audience. And somebody in the crowd was wearing a Bogus Pomp t-shirt. It's all coming back to me. So after we were done, we were watching the show, and this guy in a Bogus shirt's filming Dweezil and Lisa. She's all cute and sweet, nice girl, And Dweezil's just Dweezil. It was his first tour out, so he was like so different than he is now. And he came out and did a great job, but he didn't really have the celebrity bit down yet. He had the playing, and he was playing great, but he didn't have that incessant spotlight that comes sometimes being the son of a guy like him. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting, though, similar to your bootlegging friend, somebody from Dweezil's camp saw this and wades out into the crowd and got it. And somehow they got thinking that we or Jerry had something to do with it. We had nothing to do with it. It was just some guy who knew Jerry was playing with us. And, he's always a real, I always call him the stunt guitar player. And last time I called him, I said, hey, man, I need a track. I was doing this Leonard Cohen song. It's like almost done. And he was like, I just told him, I said, I just need you to do what you do. I want you to make shrieks and buzzes and bonks and things that go crazy in the night. Just do what you do. I want, some killer shred stunt guitar.
Yeah.
And he always brings to the table some amazing thing that frequently, I know because I used to record in the studio with him a lot. He just like tears it off in like 2 minutes. He's done.
Like that.
He's just a very impressive guy. In fact, I met Julie 30 years ago, just to give you a little of our background.
20.
How old are you?
20 years ago.
I said 30. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, she was, sorry, I'm getting older by the day. Anyhow.
You're combing the middle schools back?
I know.
Yeah, right. Hey,
out of this.
You're like, hey, kid, you want to ride in the Corvette?
I had this white van. It was awesome. I just drove it.
Had no windows or any markings on it whatsoever. Nobody
right.
No door handles.
Oh, man, this is decaying fast. So I love it. I don't know.
I have a piece of Dweezil history. I have a piece of Dweezil history I unearthed. So I had Richard Black on my show. right, from Shark Island. Right, they were a big band back in the LA scene, right, the whole Motley Crue scene and whatnot.
Right.
So doing my history, I looked it up, and they had 2 songs on the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure soundtrack. I was like, right. So I went back, I'm checking out the soundtrack, and I look, and there's a song from Dweezil Zappa on there. Not only that, it's a song that he did with the Nelson Twins. Right? So I dug into the history of why this happened. It turns out that the Nelson Twins were working on Dweezil's album. Right, and they needed they had similar management, so they brought him in to do this song on, and it was before Nelson's album came out, before the Nelson album, before they got big. So they actually released this song, and it's the Power Tool, I think is the name of the band, and it's the Nelson Twins and Dweezil. And it's interesting because now Alec Winter just did the documentary on Frank, right, who starred in Bill and Ted's. So kind of cool little things like that I discover serendipitously just by doing more research. It's fun.
Absolutely. Well, that's really cool. I mean, I can tell when you do your show, like you're the consummate rock fan, stat guy that one of the best I know. And I say that with all respect. I'm looking here. I've got a couple of people watching. Hi, Lori. John Spear is weighing in. John is our, what we call him, our spiritual demonologist on staff. He periodically comes through to try and, this studio with me lurking around and telling stories, there's a high chance for like poltergeist activity. I mean, this shit happens. We'll be sitting here in the middle of a show and some shit will happen. What the fuck was that? Yeah. Anyway, you see it happens. I don't know why, but ever since we started talking to John Spear, things have been happening. Paranormal events, weird people lurking in the shadows, but they're not really there. So, John, if you're watching, we're going to need it. We need more than a smudging. We need more like an industrial grade hazmat team clean out of bad psychic energy. I have Dr. Venkman on the phone. And Dr. Venkman has weighed in that he will be here. He's going to be on the show with me and Mike. We're going to be in the city hunting. This is such a bad event. It may spread to New York. We're getting our ecto-suits, and we're going to town. We're bringing Spear to lead us where we need to go. Julie, you got to film this. It's going to be great fun. We're going to run amok.
Die. I'll fucking die, dude. I won't be able to keep a straight face for anything.
Why bother? I mean, life's too short to walk around with a puss, Steve,
what's the best concert you ever saw in your life, brother?
Oh, the best concert I've ever seen.
Or the most unique moment in time, like holy shit, I can't believe I was there.
Oh, Led Zeppelin at the Garden back in the 70s.
6?
6, yes.
It was June. I remember my uncle telling me about that because he had just graduated high school, and that was his favorite concert. They did like 4 nights, so one of those he went to. He just said that was it. Like I can't.
I think I went to the last night, and it was freaking off the wall. It was insane. But I'm just talking about things that just blew me away from the technology. And this was 20 years ago. And I imagine if Peter Gabriel goes on tour again, he'll have some new, incredibly ridiculous. I can't imagine how much crew he had to take on the road to do this. The setting was amazing. He had a square stage at one end of the arena. He was playing an arena tour, all the standard basketball balls. At one end, he has a square stage, and it's got a catwalk that goes all the way to the other end of the arena where there's a round stage. On that, it's a conveyor belt. So I'm just going to tell you the brief intro. The show starts with this rumble that is so low that the whole building is shaking. And
vibration of life.
Yeah, right. How original, right? So this is going on, and then the band, you don't see them, but you hear them like droning, if you will. All of a sudden, Peter's up in the top in an English phone booth up above the trusses, like up at the nosebleed of the arena. And he starts singing, "Come to me, come talk to me." And this goes on. He's just echoing. It's like a really cool intro. And I'm watching it. It comes back down through the truss while he's singing it. The door opens, and all you see on stage is just this English red phone booth. He's singing, and you can hear the band. They're behind a big screen playing. When they kicked into the tune, before they did it, he gets out of the phone booth. He's wrapped up in the microphone cord. like 300 turns.
Really?
He walks out and the tune's still droning. It's like this, they have fog over the catwalk. And so he looks like he's unwinding and fighting as he's trying to get to the other side of the arena.
Nice.
When he gets there, as he walks back, it's pulling him. And it's like the coolest thing you're watching. Going, God, get to the show already. This is bad. He gets back to the stage. All of a sudden, the screen drops. The phone booth's gone because everybody's looking at the other end. And the whole band rolls out on risers. And they kick into dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun. And it was just like Sledgehammer came kicking in. And it just like took my breath away.
That's great. That's great.
There's only one point of footnote that I find rather fun looking back at it over the years. At the time, I had two big grain-fed rednecks in front of me who were like big boys. They were 2 rows in front of me. And these guys, these two Cornhuskers, they're like sitting there the whole time they're standing up. And all the people behind them are yelling, "Sit the fuck down!" And so I had like a pocket full of quarters. This was back in the day when you still had change in your pocket. So I started whipping quarters at them like really hard. And you see these guys like, "Ow, God damn it!" And looking around. I'm just sitting there like, and then the guy, like, he turns around, he's like, "Fuck you all." And a few minutes later, he spins back up, so I let him have it again, this time with a couple, like, 2 or 3 quarters. He got like machine gun with nickels and quarters and shit. And again, he turned around, he's looking, and the guy in the row, like, right next to him goes, "Will you fucking sit down?" And meantime, the concert's going full bear, and we're screaming at each other over the din. They did sit down, though, and stay down. Sometimes a public shaming is necessary for some people to just behave like a human being, you know? Here we are. You know, we paid $140 or whatever for these damn tickets, and I want to see the show.
Yeah.
But, how about you? What was your most amazing concert you've ever seen? And then,
I'll
Julie,
share 2 quick with you, and I'll share the one for the intro. I would probably give it to the Fish New Year's '99, right? So I saw they played 2 nights in a Seminole reservation in Florida in the Everglades, right?
Okay.
So it took 10 hours to get the traffic to get there, right? So it was nuts. But the midnight set, so they did 2 sets the 30th, and the 31st they did a set from 8 to 10 p.m. And then they were like, "We're doing a midnight to sunrise set." So everyone's like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Right? So everyone gets ready, right? This is it. It's, you know, the end of the century. So we're watching, and they have a guy on the stage riding a bike. It's Father Time riding a bike, and the clock's ticking. It's ticking. It gets to like 5 to midnight, and he stops. And everyone's like, "What's going on?" And then all of a sudden, you hear something in the back, and there's a big structure, kind of I don't know how many 100 feet back, but kind of in the middle of the crowd, and the walls fall off of it, and it's a big hot dog. Like a 20-foot hot dog with fish sitting in it, with the band in it. And it starts rolling toward the stage, right? And their music's playing over the loudspeaker, and they get to the stage. They came on, and it was playing Meat Stick, the Fish song. So then they got their instruments, started playing along, and then they played 46 songs from 12 until 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And it was one of the most ridiculous experiences of my life. I mean, you know, hearing them do Velvet Underground rock and roll at 4 in the morning, and they do like a 20-minute version of it. Like, dude, that was one of the craziest experiences of my life for sure. Now, as far as time and place and being, I was lucky to be there, but in 1991, I was lucky enough to see Nirvana 2 days after Nevermind came out in a bar. They were my favorite band at the time. I worked at a record store, right? So I was playing Bleach, like I was really into Mudhoney, Fluid, Tad. Like I was a member. I was a member of the Sub Pop Singles Club. I get the 7-inch every month. L7. Oh my god, I love L7. So Nirvana were like my favorite band when Bleach was out. So I worked at the record store, right? So they signed to Geffen. We're like, you know, I had already heard a lot of those songs from bootlegs. So I get all the promo stuff, and then they announced the tour, and they're playing a Thursday night in New Haven, and I was in 10th grade, and my parents don't let me go to club shows usually in the middle of the week. So I'm like, "Mom, you got to let me go. It's Nirvana." She's like, "Okay, you can go." So literally, Nevermind came out Tuesday. I saw them Thursday. I paid $7, a little X on my hand. It's on YouTube. The whole show's on YouTube. Malcolm Tent, my buddy, filmed it. So you see me with my hair down to here, 5 feet from Kurt Cobain, the whole show. It was that I can't even. That's my Beatles in Hamburg moment. Like nobody knew. There's 200 people in that room didn't know what was good. It was the album of the century just came out of the decade, you know, or and nobody really knew it. They didn't know it, right? But and
Right.
and cool little point. I'm a huge Velvet Underground fan. They did Here She Comes Now, that the Velvet Underground cover. Only one of 12 times they ever played it that night. Which is pretty
Really?
cool. Yeah. So that's I can't believe I got to see that. And that Malcolm filmed it. My buddy Malcolm.
Right.
It's so cool that I can actually see like, yep, that's me right there. I remember Chris dropped his pick, and it wasn't like it didn't have it was just a pick, so I picked it up and gave it back to him, and he kept playing it was a different time. I talked to Dave Grohl after the show. I remember I went up, I was like, that was the best show ever. He's like, no, go fuck yourself. Ha ha ha. It was sweet. You're full of shit or something like that. He was really cool. So that was cool. Yeah, man. Getting to, again, the energy transfer. Now I look back and it was like, wow, I can't believe I was there when that happened.
Right.
So lucky. So lucky. And it wasn't like I saw them for the first time. They were my favorite band at the time, so it was like, yeah, really lucky there.
That's interesting because you mentioned the Velvet Underground. Somewhere I have a tape of us opening up for Mo Tucker at the Tampa Cuban Club. And we were up on the third floor, and it was really a great time. For my guys in the Shakes, love you all, man. You will see me in Florida soon again. I can't wait to hang and play a little bit. And they're still going. They're still out there wandering the freeways in search of fun and frolic, and I'll leave it at that. They're searching, and if you hear they're coming to your town, please, hide the silverware, hide the daughters when they get
Great
there.
Promo. Perfect promo.
Let me just say this: they're going places. Trust me. We're going to have Steve Grant. He's in charge of artists. Never mind.
Oh, don't.
I'm going to just behave myself. But Grant, if you're watching, you're sitting here watching live radio or TV history.
Hey,
Neil Ernest Van Erdy and Mike Muldoon, the Dooner man, the Doomster, the Doontola, the Doodalicious.
Mo Tucker's on my wish list, but just so you know, Mo Tucker is I'm trying to get Mo Tucker on my show.
I hope if you do, man, I'm gonna have to call in, man, because that is like
I just love her so much. I remember having her solo albums and buying all of her stuff when I was in high school, and
you know what? I'm glad your generation dug that stuff.
Oh yeah,
and you're not that young. You're not that much younger, but we've probably got 20 years difference.
I'm 45.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, I'm pretty close. I'm getting old, but I feel great, and with a little help from steroids, I started talking like Arnold.
There you go. Hit to pump you up.
Pump you up.
Pump you up.
Pump it up. So, Julie, what is your favorite, best, blew your face off concert you've ever seen anywhere in the known world, or unknown for that matter?
Okay, so first off, I have way too many. I've forgotten more than I remember. So I will say a couple of them. Queensryche is one of my favorite. My favorite band. Was my favorite band. They really got me into music and everything. Really made me think. So I was at a show where Typo Negative, Henry Rollins, and Queensryche all together.
Sweet.
It was a sweet show. It was a great show. And I mean, there's Rollins up there barefooted, like he normally does, just wearing like some shorts or some whatever, and then just bouncing all over the stage, crazy. Yep. And then Typo came on, and man, they just. And then when Queensryche did their thing, it was so theatrical and just completely blew my mind. And
that's that Operation Mindcrime tour.
Yeah, no. I wasn't of age yet then. This is maybe like 20 years ago. So anyways, but I got backstage passes, and ended up going onto the bus with Eddie Jackson, the bassist.
Oh, you went out with a bass player? You didn't tell anybody, did you? I mean, God.
We didn't do it. There's nothing like that. I mean,
Oh, come on, tell us the dirt.
So I had backstage passes, blah 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 blah. So we're hanging out there. I'm all excited and nervous, even though I've been working in the business and everything for a while. I'm so like, oh my God, And I love Jeff Tate, and so I ripped off his last name to use for my air name. But at any rate, so I'm sitting there waiting for him to come out. I get autographs, right? And Jeff Tate's so exhausted. I don't know what to say. Like I just stick out like something to him for him to sign. He's like, oh. I'm like, can you sign this, please? He's like, sorry, my ESP skills are a little off. Do you want me to sign this? I was like, yes, please. And I mean, that's how stunned I was. So then, so here are the sordid details. The sordid details are suddenly some stripperific girl became my friend at
Mm-hmm.
the show. And she
Well,
was like,
you weren't by any chance acting in an indecent manner or doing anything
no,
like to
I'm
sell her
not.
virtue, are you?
Not me. I'm standing there waiting. She sees my backstage pass, right? And she's like, "Oh, how'd you get that?" I'm like, "Well, blah blah blah." And she's like, "Well, I'll be right back." 10 minutes later, this skankerific chick comes back with a big smile on her face and just backstage pass. And I said, how'd that go? How'd you manage to get that? And she says, well, I just found this guy who was going to go backstage, but he decided he wanted to be with me more.
And now they had a very meaningful relationship in the bathroom of a tour bus, which I will tell you, I'm not going to say it's a good experience, but all I will say, there's better places to procreate, or at least practice for procreation. I'm sorry. Well, I guess she would have been what they referred to in one of the great Frank Zappa songs. She was the groove slut.
Groove slut, huh?
Yeah.
She's
and
the
so
groove slut.
Don't make a fuss. Just get on the bus.
Yeah. Right. So that's when she comes back with this, and she just tells me, "Oh, I went up with this guy, right?" So then, so we're allowed back after, we're allowed back, and we meet Eddie Jackson. We're talking to him and talking to him and talking to him. And she starts really talking to him, and she's like, "Oh, this is my friend. We're gonna go on the bus. Let's go." And I'm like, "What? I have no idea what's going on." She's like, "Oh yeah. I talked to him."
Maybe she's trying to sell your virtue.
Maybe she was. So, anyways, we ended up back.
Yeah, she's an industrious young lady.
Yeah, and we ended up on the bus with Eddie Jackson and hanging out with him and one of the other roadies, and we're just drinking like in these big martini glasses and shit and everything, and it was great. It was a lot of fun hanging with them, and it was just
sure does.
Your dream band. So, anyways, that was my sordid and unsorted tale, and then of course we have some sordid tales Neil and I can tell and share, but we won't.
Oh yes. We'd have to change some names to protect the innocent or guilty, as it may be.
Yeah, but that was
the tour bus stories. I will tell you. Were you ever into ska, Special Beat, any of those bands like English Beat?
Not deeply. I mean, I love ska. Like I can listen to it, but I've never like dove deep into ska per se. I mean, Murphy's Law ska song is probably the
right.
ska song that I have in my repertoire.
At least somebody in ska made some money somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Retirement money, not enough to live on the road and feed the bills and the dog. The Shakes, we played with, it was either English Beat or Special Beat or Specials or something a couple of times back in the early 90s. My memory is a little hazy of those gigs, but one of the funniest times was sitting with Rankin Roger in the dressing room. And when we would do that, we did one of his songs, the song Monkey Man. And so when we'd open it up, we played it very well. So I tell him on the bus, like before the show, we're sitting there, getting high and carrying on, doing what rockers do. And he says, I looked at him, I go, "Hey man, I've always been a fan. I just love you so much. And, can you sign something, blah, blah, blah." And then we're chatting a while later, and I go, "Hey, we like you so much that we always play Monkey Man, And I go, "In fact, when we go on tonight, we're going to play it for our first song." And the guy doesn't know me, knowing that I'm a smart ass by nature, and that if it sounds off, it probably is. So he looks at me and he goes, "You're a cheeky monkey, ain't you?" And I kind of looked at him, and I cracked up. And if any of the guys in the Shakes can correct me, and about that time, their drummer was using the restroom, which at the Ritz Theater, I can tell you, that is like COVID. There's shit in there that would have scared COVID, and that was 30 years ago. The toilet seat was it looked like something off Frank's album, Overnight Sensation. It was grim, very grim. And being an Englishman, he had never seen the kind of bugs you have in Florida. I mean, the state bird is like a cockroach that gets like that big. It looks like doing a little heart thing. Oh, it was nice.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some so trendy. Yes. But at this point, he kicks the bathroom door open. He'd been sitting on the toilet when a giant cucaracha came out of the dark iniquities of that theater with ghosts. That's a place for spirit. But he comes screaming out. He's got toilet paper dragging behind him. The guy is like having them glued. And you had to hear him. I can only paraphrase, but he's like, "What in the fuck is this? There's nothing bigger than a housefly in fucking London, for God's sakes. What the fuck?" So everybody's like, his band are just cracking up, terrorizing him from that point on. But to make it a happy ending, great show with them. We did a great job. But when we first went on, and I'm pretty sure Lee was annoyed, but Lee and I always got along great about just taking hell, we don't know if it's going to work, but let's try it. Mm-hmm. So when we went on to play one of our songs, the first notes of it were like, dun, 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 ram, 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 pam, pam, dun, 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 dun. And then we just kicked it. And like a real greasy fucking reggae groove that's like Sly and Robbie shit. Sweet. The tempo and the whole feel just changed. And we just dropped the groove down tight. And we played our hour. It was fun and great time. And then they came on and just blew the doors out. It was like so much fun and intimate venue. I've noticed, I will say, the Ritz is an intimate venue. It is not a place to be intimate with your partner, man, beast, or animal, plant, whatever, vegetable. You should avoid that. It's a den of germs, and the people down there are going, here it is bad enough with COVID, and I got this asshole up in the city making fun of our theater. It's an institution, and anybody who gets to play there should know they've played on a stage where a lot of people, Henry Rollins, the punk scene. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nirvana had played there. One of my friends in Tampa will let me know. So, Julie, I know you got a question. I can see it burning in your mind. What do you got, girl?
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to know tell us what's next for you. What are you doing next? What's coming up next? What can you share with us?
Yeah, no, good question. Thanks. I'm actually gearing to close season 1 down, right? So I've been going since April 8th, and I've done 155 shows since April 8th. So I think I'm like, when did season, I keep going, and it's like, season 1, episode 145. I'm like, when do I end it? Who decides? I'm like, wait, I decide. So I got to end this madness. So I got 3 more shows I'm going to do. One of which I'm really excited about. I'm going to do, do you remember the US festivals in 82 and 83? So Julie, this was Steve Wozniak, right? Who was half of Apple, half of Apple.
Yes.
Right. So he had a buttload of money in 82. Right. So he basically built one of the biggest arena or outside venues, which is still there. It's part of Disney now. He put on these crazy festivals. Look them up. You got to. It's 82, 83. It was 2 weekends, and the first night was the Ramones, Talking Heads, Police. It was crazy. Wow. Second night was Pat Benatar, Tom Petty. Third night was like Grateful Dead. It's just ridiculous. The second year they had a heavy metal night, heavy metal day, which was Quiet Riot, Judas Priest, Ozzy, Scorpions. Wow. It's nuts. So these 2 crazy weekends happened. My friend Ralph Hewitt photographed both the weekends. All right, so he's been on my show a few times. He met Zappa, so we did a show about that. We did a show about the Yardbirds and Led Zeppelin, he photographed a lot. And we're planning to do a show about the US Festival. And I'm also going to have Roger Capps, who's the bass player for Pat Benatar, come back on. He was on my show once, but he's going to come back on and just talk about the US Festival. He had mentioned it when he was on my show earlier, but we're just going to focus on this. And I did reach out to Steve Wozniak's publicist, who was like, I think he's busy, but send me the link of the show when it's done, and maybe he'll watch it.
If you get that,
Steve Wozniak to watch the show. I do it.
Hell yeah, dude. I hope you get it. Absolutely. I really do, man.
That's going to be one of the last ones that I have 2 other shows, and then I'm going to take a couple weeks off. And then I'm going to start a new schedule. I'm actually going to be live streaming, right? So my show I record and then I just put it up, right? So I'm going to go live streaming. It's going to be Thursdays and Saturdays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. All right. It's going to be on my channel. Also, I signed a contract with Count Zero Records, right? So I'm going to be going through their channels as well. So yeah, that's good. Right. I've been planning that I signed that a couple months ago, but they're getting the studio straightened out and whatnot. So I think it's ready. So yeah, end of season 1, and then beginning of season 2, probably mid-February is what I'm looking at. And I got some, a couple guests booked. I have some big ideas. I'm shooting for the stars. So I'm going to slow it down. Not as many shows, go for more quality. Live streaming to get more interactive, right? Get people to be able to ask my questions that I didn't think about and they might want to know. Bring it to the next level. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, excellent.
That's exactly what you do. You're evolving, you're growing, you're doing an amazing job. You just keep doing what you're doing,
666, I like that. My Slayer special, episode 666, end of season 1.
Hey, we need John to come up here and do a cleansing, man. I'm telling you, we need like some serious saging. I don't know if you've heard it, John. When you come up here, you're going to have to bring 6 able-bodied men, and they're going to have to do. I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be like The Exorcist or some shit. God knows they'll be spewing. What is it? Pea soup, all that good stuff. We're hoping for quite a show that day. I think it'll be well watched, and hopefully the police will get called. That's always the big way to end the show.
Why not?
Really, you have to just tell them if they break in that he's under a doctor's treatment. I'm kidding. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll totally do
We're
that.
degenerating. Go ahead, Jewel. We got to wrap it up because we have another show coming up in not long.
Mike, thank you. Hey, so tell us again where we can find you aside from Dooner's World on all platforms. I'm guessing
right now. I'm on YouTube,
Okay.
Facebook. I also have doonersworld.com. Right, I have the website where you can go and find my show. And I'll be through Count Zero Records channel on and also on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, Twitter. I think they're going through a lot of channels. So looking to up the game a little bit. And I want to have you guys on my show once I'm live streaming. Let's come on to Dooner's World and
that would be great.
Already going. I still have more questions for you guys. I want to know. I have a good Henry Rollins story. I'll save it for next time we meet.
I love to hear it. Can't wait.
Go ahead. We got to have you on for one more minute. We're not going to.
Are you going to save it, or you want to tell?
It's not that big of a story, but it's kind of funny. So I was 14 or 15, and I was seeing Henry Rollins open for the Beastie Boys on the Check Your Head tour at Roseland, right? So and I'm walking there, and we're half loaded, right? What 15-year-olds would do. And so we're walking in front of the venue, and we're getting psyched, and I look and I see this gorgeous hot chick, and I'm like, oh my God, she's so hot. And then I looked next to her, and it was Henry Rollins holding her hand, and I was like, I remember being like, oh my God, I'm gonna get my ass kicked by Henry Rollins for
He's gonna go kill Monkey Man on you,
Yeah, he's gonna beat up a 15-year-old kid, right? But I remember thinking that, because Henry's just the figure, he's like you say, he's the guy up there in his loincloth, screaming at you,
Right?
So I felt so guilty. I was like, oh, that girl's hot. Look away.
Oh yeah, that was off limits, man, for sure. Most people are afraid of their bouncers. In this case, Henry really would come out and kick your ass.
Yeah, I know. So that was like a Friday night, and I remember getting the paper that Sunday, and there was like a Beasties played Friday, and then Saturday it was like ballroom dancing, and they had a picture of Robert De Niro, like right where I was moshing to "So What You Want," ballroom dancing, and it was so cool. Roseland was awesome. I missed that place.
I love it. All right, man. For everybody who's watching, we're going to say goodbye today for this episode of Live with Neve, and we're so thrilled. Check out Dooner's World. He's a great guy. He's one of our family, and we'll be glad to have you on. It's a good thing COVID's not going on, or we'd haul our ass up to your studio. We'd really get in trouble.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming.
Well, look, stay in touch, and you're always welcome to come by, and I'll run some spots for your show because you're out there. We're all just trying to. I like what you do, and I can tell you, man, I don't feel any weirdness other than you're such a great guy. I mean, man,
we're on the same team, brother. We're on the same. It's all about love.
You're so likable, and
he's loving Frank Zappa, man. That's all.
Exactly. Well, listen, for everybody who was asking, he was talking about Andre before. Andre Chumley is a really cool guy, and I have to mention him because he's also got a show. I am not a vegan, but I do try to follow and eat healthy, and I enjoy his show, even though I'm not a vegan. When he talks about it, he does at least one thing about Andre. The guy does his homework. He always knows what he's talking about, and he's very diligent in his homework. So I love his show. We've had him on. I think he's been on twice. He's great fun, and actually, we're probably overdue because we haven't talked in a while. And when we get on, we'll talk Zappa. We'll talk anything, kind of like we did today. Whatever, it's open for him. Just run and go to the races. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of the day. Let's connect soon.
Yes.
Follow, subscribe, like us anywhere you find webcasts and on all of our social media to get bonus material.